Welcome to the project, everyone. Today we're finally getting to work on the Crosstrek FB25 swap. We're finally to a point where we're gonna work towards putting things together to actually put the motor in there. All the videos we've done so far has just been tearing down and diagnostics and trying to get like the core components to get it together. And if you haven't seen the other ones, our FB20 blew up, main bearings in the bottom blew up, and then I was like, you know, FB20 really lacking in power, so we're going to do an FB25. So I found someone on the used market that had an FB25 short block with the pistons, everything in there. That's great. And they also sold me a broken FB25 that just had some bottom end damage. Or no, he said it was leaking coolant into the oil. So anyways, once we pulled apart that motor, the heads were toast on it. We found a local shop that was super nice, and they lent us an FB25 core that we could pull the good heads off of, put the bad heads on and give it back to them, and they did that for free, which was awesome. So now we have good heads, because the heads between the FB20 and FB25 are different. So we have FB25 heads that are good. Now we need to get them ready to actually assemble to put into a motor to actually be used. And so they're a little dirty right now. I don't have the tools to clean them like I want, so we're gonna go on a little bit of field trip. We already loaded up all the parts. So let's get over to my friend's house and get to cleaning these guys. Let's go. We are back from sandblasting or walnut blasting, and I gotta say, I think these things cleaned up pretty well. If you guys look in here, like it took off all the carbon inside the combustion chamber and everything, and they're looking pretty dang sweet. As far as the valves, we switched over to glass and did that, and they turned out okay. Here's the thing, I was a bit of an idiot. So for the valves, I think some of them I came up too high on the stem here, and the intakes, they look pretty dang good, but the exhaust, there's a lot of pitting right around the valve seal itself. You see that pitting right down in there? And then the intake, there's like no pitting. But I'm still worried about the finish that I put on here. It's kind of like a little bit of like a brushed finish almost. I mean, that's what glass does. It got me concerned, not to get sidetracked. So we did the heads first. The TGV valves, they turned out amazing. And the heads, they also turned out really good. We still have some gasket material that I'll probably just take off by hand. I mean, even right there, I can just kind of squeeze it off. So what I'm probably gonna do, pull off all the gasket material, and then with the heads, I was a bit of an idiot. I should have done more research, and I didn't block off any of the oil passages, and so when I sprayed it with the walnut, I mean, there's walnut kind of stuck up in all of these oil passages. So I at least know that there's this oil passage right here. It probably comes out there, and then there's this oil passage over here. There's just these two main oil passages. So we need to clean all of those out, because any amount of grit in the oil passages could, you know, wreak havoc. So I probably could have saved myself a decent bit of work if I actually plugged those up before I blasted them. But then also with the valves, after seeing these seats, yeah, we took the time to actually get all the carbon off of these, which I probably should have done by hand, but I ended up just opting for all new valves. So we got all new valves, we got a bunch of parts coming in so we can actually lap them and all of that, but the main thing is I need to clean these heads to the point that I feel comfortable using them, which again is my own fault. So yeah, that's it. I'm an idiot. We need to get to cleaning, but we are so close. I am excited for this. I can't wait to get this finally back together. I know it's been long for you guys. It's been long for me. So let's get to cleaning. I think I'm actually going to clean off the gasket surfaces first. So this is what I'm worried about. So these are one of the TGV valves that we sandblasted. And again, I just sandblasted down in here and maybe it got through. This is what I'm worried about. Here, let me just show you. So here's the valve. And when I pull this off, do you see down in there? Look at all that walnut down in there. And it's all over in here. So yeah, it's sealed up pretty decently to the outside world, I would have to guess. Maybe through here isn't too bad. But at least through here, there's a gap. And so glad I took this off, because that's pretty bad. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the walnut stuck in the oil passages here has really kind of, it's been a bit of a barrier for me to get past. And I've been busy at work and other things, and so honestly, it's been like a few weeks at this point of just kind of mulling over trying to get this walnut out of here. And I think we're close. I don't want to put this off too much, but it's been hard to have motivation. It's been super cold out here, and it's been hard because I don't know exactly how to solve this, and I haven't, you know, I wish there was an easy solution, like just throw acid in there and it'll get rid of everything but keep the aluminum just fine. Unfortunately, it's not like that. But the other day I was outside taking a break from work and I opened up the garage because there was sun coming in, and for whatever reason, seeing the sun hit the Crosstrek just like brought back memories of it actually running and like using it to go camping and stuff like that. And I was like, dang, okay, we have to get the Crosstrek going because it's been too long. So I'm gonna come to the heads in a minute, but I wasn't gonna show you guys this because it has to deal with emissions a bit. I think it's important, I at least want this information out there in case anybody needs it for, you know, like racing and that kind of thing. If you're gonna go to the track with your Crosstrek or your FB25, and it's about these. These are Tumble generator valves. So let me get the camera set up and we can talk about these a little bit. So if you didn't know, these are Tumble generator valves, and they actually sit like right here on the intakes. And as you can see in here, this one has like these flaps. And the whole point of these, they have a little actuator on here. So they have this actuator that sits on here, and it's just a motor with a position sensor. And how this works is there's a motor with a gear, a magnet for the position sensor, and then it just moves this. And from my understanding, what they do is at idle and low RPMs, these close off and force it through this gap to tumble and make it just burn the fuel more efficiently. AKA out the other end, there's less fuel in the exhaust, and therefore, you know, better for the environment kind of a thing. But this actually robs some horsepower. It's not as important for naturally aspirated applications like I'm gonna do, but if you are in a boosted application, then these can actually block off a lot of cause a lot of restriction in your intake. And so what happens is, you know, under high RPMs and stuff, these will open up like this, but then you still have all of that blocking in there. And for other Subaru models, people make like, you can buy a whole runner like this that doesn't have it at all. And I've heard of people, you know, like, oh, well, they just, I don't know, take the motor off, but then still have it plugged in so it doesn't give an error code and that kind of a thing. And then they like cut these. That's actually not the right way to go about this. And I think I did figure out the way that it's supposed to go, that you're supposed to go about this. The problem is that these shafts, they actually dimple the backside of the screws, and so you can't take them off. But with the right Phillips head, or the right, 4-point head on there, and my impact, I basically just broke off. Just really like pow, 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 broke them all off. None of them stripped. They just all broke off pretty cleanly like this, and I was able to get out all the valves. And then from there, what it is, it's pretty easy to get the whole shaft out. You don't need to cut it or anything. You pull off this nut, which will expose the threads there, and then I pull off these things. I put the nut back on so I have something to hit against, and then I either use my rubber mallet or like a punch to kind of protect that, and you got to push it out this side. This is just a plug pushed down in there. And so put this in the vise, and then you pound out the rod the other end. You'll push out this plug, and you'll get to this, which is, no rod. There's, the bearings in there and whatnot. And then I can just push this plug back in. But I'm going to clean this really well, and then I'm actually going to probably use some high temp RTV and actually seal up these holes so that way it's a bit of a smoother transition. And then we can put the plug back in, and then we're going to figure out some kind of plate on here. And then that means, because I'm going to be able to tune it myself and everything, I can turn off the error code for this, and when I go to the track, I can put my non-restrictive ones, or if we do like anything like that, I can put on my non-restrictive ones and then have have better airflow and everything. So to put it bluntly, I don't necessarily subscribe to emission controls being a good thing. I think with everything, with transportation, because emissions adds a lot more parts like this, versus just like a runner in there. And I think with all the added complexity, with all the replacement parts being needed to ship around, trying to actually manufacture all these new mechanisms and everything, I think in the end, the amount of emissions that have actually been reduced still hasn't offset all of the emissions caused by the new parts and the shipping them and all of that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, I think our motors being efficient and not polluting is a good thing, but I think we're going about it the wrong way. But I do believe in not breaking the law, so I'm just saying, don't point your fingers at me if you decide to do things illegally. So anyways, this is how you turn your TGV valve delete in there. So we're gonna get these cleaned up. I've actually done it to both sides. So we're gonna get these cleaned up so we can RTV them and go from there. I just wanted to at least show you guys this, how to take them apart, because I haven't seen anyone like even talk about this, how to actually take these apart. So there you go. All right, so our race TGVs are looking pretty good. The silicone down in here, the little plugs or RTV plugs I made, they did, and I was expecting this, they did kind of shrink down a little bit, as you can see. And so if I really wanted them to not have like a divot, I could put like another layer and then go off. I heard of like other people online, it's like, oh, do epoxy or something else, like cut off the rods and leave them in there. I mean, my problem with epoxy is that the expansion rate is probably going to be different than of this aluminum, and so at least the RTV should kind of hold on to it a little bit and expand. But again, RTV is not like a glue, so we'll see how this lasts. It should do pretty good. I mean, I've seen RTV have a pretty good like adhesion to what I have it on, and like when you're trying to clean off gasket surfaces, it sticks pretty well. So overall, I think these things are ready to go, and I think it turned out pretty well. Well, actually, there's one other thing. We got to figure out how we want to block off this end. Yeah, but I don't know if we'll tackle that this video. We might tackle that in another video. But there we go. These things are now ready for some racing in our Crosstrek. So now that we have these done with, while these were drying or curing, I went ahead and took the liberty of working on the heads a little bit. But let's talk about it because it's quite the adventure. With the heads, they have been the bane of my existence for the last few weeks because, again, it's been on my mind. I didn't know how to solve all the Walnut in all the places. Like, I really kicked myself for not closing those off. But I think I've already talked about it a bunch. So we're not here to moan and groan. We're here to actually solve the problem. And today I came with an idea on how to solve it. But I also have a new tool that I've been wanting for a long time. We finally got it, so I can actually show you what the issue is. Whoops. I got a new tool. It's kind of been a long time needed, and already I'm finding a ton of uses for it. And it's this. So I actually have two of them. So this is an endoscope. So this is like a fancy one. Yeah, it actually has, on the end of the probe, on the end of the scope, I keep looking over there. On the end of the scope here, there's a camera on the side and a camera on the front, and you can kind of see how big that end is right there. So this is my main one, my big fancy one. This is going to be great for like looking down in cylinders and kind of figuring out what's going wrong without actually taking it apart, which is going to be awesome. So yeah, you see there? Ooh, look, there's the camera. So this is awesome, and I've already gotten a few uses out of this, even just for like pest control in the house. I also got this guy, which is a little bit cheaper. Not a little bit, this one's quite a bit cheaper. I mean, you can tell that this thing's just like a little flimsy light thing, but look at how small the head is on this. So you can fit into like really tiny spaces. The whole reason I got this one is because they advertised a really long focal length, meaning like it would be in focus really far away. So I wanted to get this guy for, like, honestly checking the vents in our house and being able to look, like, far down the vent without having to go to the other end. Or there's, like, crawl spaces and everything. So I want to pop out in a crawl space and look all the way out. Unfortunately, they lied. This is not, like, a 16-foot focal length. This is, like, 3 inches. And so anything past, like, an inch or two is just, like, super blurry. But that tiny head is actually still useful because like these oil passages are really small. So I can kind of look around a little bit with this guy, but I can't fit it into anywhere. So let me show you, we'll start recording with this. I've actually never done it. So if we poke down into here, I mean, it's looking pretty good. Man, this frame rate is awful. And we can kind of look down into here, look down into this guy. Yeah, but again, this guy is like an inch or two. Yeah, but he just doesn't fit. It's like an inch or two into there. Or the nice thing about this guy, if we start a new recording, is that it has a side camera. So we can actually come in here and look down the side. But the problem is that it's just not, it's honestly not big enough. Or sorry, it's not small enough for what I'm trying to do here. So let's stop that. Great for other applications, just not necessarily this one. We're looking at too small of passages. So we're going to have to use the other endoscope. Here's the small endoscope. And it is like a really tiny head on there. And it does get pretty hot, but actually I really like this one. Other than, I wish I could change some settings, like start without the lights on, like hard set the screen brightness, and some other things like that. So these heads, again, while we were waiting for that to cure, I kind of cleared out this one. And I think this one is actually clear of Walnut, which is a huge relief for me. I think I actually were able to get it. I have reasonable confidence in it, so I'm excited about this one. As like an overview for how the oil passages work on this, I'm pretty sure the feed from the block, it comes in one of these two holes right here. So to kind of go through where the oil goes in here, the oil comes up through the engine block through here. This is for the timing chain tensioner. And then it comes up right here. And you can see these little balls. There's even one right there. I think these are to help block off once they get done machining the chasm. and then they push the ball in there to seal it off. So they come up, and we have these two, and I think these are going to the cams. These are the main feeds for the cams here. And then they come out. Let's see. Yeah, so they come out, and we have all of our 4 for each. So all of our 8 hydraulic lifters, tensioners, I think is what they're called. And so it goes through all of these. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes that also go up to the cam carrier. I'm not sure exactly, because we have these and we have these. So maybe these are for like the, yeah, no, they probably all just feed the cams. And then at the very back, right here and right here, we have like Allens. And I almost tried to pull these out so I could stick the bore scope all the way down, or the endoscope. But that's the main thing. Up, tensioner to the cams. Got our lifters to the cams, lifters to the cams. So these are blocked off. Oh, and right here where it necks down, it does look like there's a restrictor right here at the front to kind of make sure the pressures are going where they should be. So that is how the oil works, and it's the same on both of these, just slightly different. So we are recording on the bore scope, and if we look down in here on the bore scope, you can see all the way down there at the bottom. I have to be like a bit far away. So down at the bottom there's a bit of grit. And if we come in at an angle, you can see there's that restrictor that I was talking about. And also, last I looked on this guy, I did see a bit of walnut on there. So there's that restrictor. There it's coming down. And then if we go to the other side, there's the inside of the ball down in there. And so we need to make sure we're also cleaning on the inside of that ball. And then here's the other one. So there, we can see that restrictor a decent bit. And if we go straight down, and we can drop all the way down into there and see, boom, I think there might be a little bit of grit. Yeah, you can kind of see some of the stuff down in there. Oh, there's a block off right here. And let's see. Oh yeah, this guy comes out right here. So if I come in, and you can see there's definite walnut down in here. We can also come down into like here, and this is like the main oil passage. So if we have our lifter and we come down in here, I can kind of view down a little bit and get like just the edge. If we go all the way down to this one, let's do the one where we're not getting blocked by this. I can like almost see the end, like right there. We can kind of like just barely. Oh, come on. Yeah, we can like barely peek around that corner. And so things are looking pretty decent. If we try to look there. Restrictor. Yeah, things are looking pretty decent, but again, just not ideal. So if we look down in here, we can see, like, ooh yeah, there's definitely some grit down there on the bottom. But if we look down in this guy that I've like spent an hour just blowing air around, you can see that bottom, it's a lot cleaner. And like the restrictor on here, it's also cleaner. The ball looks a lot clean. We come over here. Sure enough, that looks all clean. There's a really good shot of the restrictor. And then we got the ball. Yeah, so I've got this guy cleaned pretty good. Ooh, look at that. There's a decent shot. The endoscopes are super fun and really useful to really get down in there and look around and see what's going on. So I have pretty good confidence in this guy that this guy's clean. I might just go over again because, again, I've been like losing sleep over this. This guy, I need to spend like another hour or two just blowing it all out. But coming in tonight, I thought I needed a new tool. I thought I was going to have to make a tool, but I think I got it all out with compressed air. What I did is like the rubber tip blowgun, and then I also took my metal one and I put a piece of tube on there with a slit so it's at an angle. And this allowed me to go in and really get to the places I couldn't with either one of these and just blow around. Yeah, after doing that until I was sick of it, I'm pretty sure we got it out. What I was thinking of doing is basically the same thing, but with an adapter right here that would turn the compressed air into a vacuum. And then I could go in and try to get to all these places and like suck it out rather than blowing it out, which maybe would be a bit more efficient, but then I'd have to like, I don't have a bunch of good materials. I'd have to like make it out of wood. So I'm glad that we got it out with just the compressed air. And what it seems like is the washing you saw me do actually did help clean all the oil. And then once it dried, all the walnut was just bouncing around. It wasn't actually stuck or clung to anything. And so that really allowed me to, once we got all the oil out, it allowed me to blow everything out. So, man, it's a lot of talking. I'm just really excited because this is the mountain I've needed to climb to finally get this back together. We don't have our gaskets quite yet, but let's get these cleaned, get these finally have confidence that there's no walnut in the oil in these, you know, right the wrong I did when I didn't block them off. And then we can start lapping the valves. We can actually start, you know, doing work to put this back together. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna time lapse blowing this guy out, which is gonna be, it's gonna be fun. So much fun. All right, let's go, man. Well, guys, this is a momentous occasion. We finally got these heads clean. And, I mean, if you guys have been following along, maybe you've seen it a little bit, but this feels like such an achievement, such a weight off my shoulders for this. Because you guys have been following from the beginning, and it's just been like one challenge after another. You know, like the motor blew up, trying to decide where to go, buying, you know, another motor, an engine block. Turns out, you know, that didn't really quite work out. We thought we had heads we could use, then that didn't really work out, and we finally got heads we could use, but then I screwed it up with all of that grit in there. It's been quite the process for me, and it's just felt like, you know, finally I'm able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've been able to overcome each of the problems we've ran into, and I've just, man, it's a huge weight off my shoulder. I really feel like this feels so good to have done. It won't be the end of this video because I don't feel like it's the appropriate ending for you guys for this video, but like for me, oh, this is, I mean, I could end here, or I'm just like so happy that we're to this point. We finally got these clean. We finally got these like ready for reassembly. Well, almost. But like, look at these. These things are so clean. I mean, if you remember what they looked like before, whew, these look so much better. I mean, look at that. These make my other ones just look like crap. So these are finally clean. I want to get a little bit further before we end this video because I feel like you guys really deserve that. It's been weeks for me of working on these, but you know, it's one video for you guys. So the last thing we need to do is lap the valves. And then we can finally do the final assembly where we put in the new valve seals, we put in the valves, we put the valve springs on there, and we basically get these heads ready to be reassembled. And that's gonna be awesome. I mean, from there, it's literally just, you know, putting the motor back together and putting it in. So we need to lap the valves on here. Now, I'm probably going to do a few by hand because I haven't lapped valves before, but I did get some fun tools to do it easier. But first, let me show you the state of the union here. Okay, before we talk about these heads in our next step, I just want to talk about this a little bit. So just for you guys, just like probably a few minutes ago, I showed you some endoscopes that we use to look in the oil passages. And I want to look at them again, but I kind of changed up my endoscope tools that I have. So if you remember, I got like the really thin one for a long focal length, and it didn't. They lied. They straight up lied in that. So I've gone a different direction. Testlong, they make a probe, they make a scope, they have adjustable focus on it, like autofocus. Yeah, it's a really big head on that, but that means, you know, I could pop up in the rafters over there and look all the way across the crawl space or the attic up there. So when looking at this, I did a bit more research and I actually found out that this is probably my ideal setup, is right here. I mean, it's a bit expensive, but basically we have an NTS 500 screen, and this screen actually works with a bunch of different probes. So, not on Amazon, but I went to their site directly, and turns out I was able to get 3 different probes to do everything I wanted. So this right here, that's the really tiny probe, the same size of the other one that I thought I was going to keep. But look, it's just a probe that I can plug into the same screen. And then I had one with a dual camera. This one's actually 3 cameras because the side one is like supposed to look like an inch or 2 away, and the other one is a lot closer, like, you know, less than an inch away. So then you can, like, if you're in a tight space, use the tight focal, or if you're in a larger space, use the larger focal. So now we have kind of like a borescope that we can use as a borescope. We've got something really tiny for the really tiny stuff like this. And then the reason I even found them was the autofocus, so we can, you know, look really far away. We could go into a crawl space and look all the way on the other side of the house with this thing and be in focus. And so between all of this, basically one screen, I can do all of that rather than having to buy a bunch of different ones. So I ended up going with this setup, and so far I've been really impressed. And it was a little confusing, but they actually have this USB adapter, and they say it's for like one of their borescopes. But this allows me to plug in any one of these cameras and use it on my laptop or on a tablet or something. So even if I don't have this in here, with this adapter, I can plug in any of these. And I mean, I think I can even download an app on my phone and use my phone as the camera. And so, like, with how confusing all of the endoscope stuff is, the inspection camera, I mean, if you go on Amazon, there's so many options. And like, granted, I know Testlong probably isn't like revolutionizing things, but like from their website, I was able to buy all of this. I didn't have to buy a bunch of screens. I was just able to buy all these things, and now I have like the perfect kit for what I want to do and what I need to do. And so I think this will really help us, even for YouTube, getting into tight places. Like, I want to show you what it looks like in there and what I'm seeing, and this will really help me in there. So I know I'm blabbing a lot. Check this out. If it's a fit for you, so far in my 5 minutes of playing with this and my hours of research, this is kind of fitting the bill. So let's use our new scope. We'll do the tiny one on there so we can actually fit in there. I will say the firmware on this guy, like, the screen seems pretty decent, but the firmware on this could use some work. Like, I wish I could set the default brightness so I could have this turn on without the lights, because it just comes with the brightness full on. And then the only way to change the brightness is by hitting one button, and you have to cycle through the different modes. Man, it would be nice if we could just, like, I don't know, hit the light button and then up and down to change the brightness, and then also have a setting where we could have a default brightness, and just some other things like that. Like, it's a little clunky to use. See, like, there you guys are. Like here, I think I gotta go Again, I can't like tell it what mode, I just have to like cycle through the modes. Okay, so we've got the tiny probe on here. We've got both the heads set up, so the restrictors are here in the front. Oil comes in from the front. This is the front of the motor. It goes down through here to all the lifters. And so if we come in like this, and I can get the camera just right, we should be able to kind of just view in there and see how everything's looking. And same for down in here. Granted, it's still too close for the view, but look, you can go down in here, and like right there, might be a little piece of something, but overall, this is looking pretty dang good. You can see the ball on that side. Come in here, we can see that restrictor. Granted, it's too close, so it's blurry, but this is small enough. Ooh, look, we need to go grab that piece. So right there is a little piece of grit. But other than that, I mean, everything is looking mighty fine. So we come over to the other head. Yep, that's looking good. The restrictor's looking a lot cleaner. Yep, that's looking good. If we look straight down, that's looking good. And the ball, yep, the ball looks good. If we come in at an angle, I'm not seeing any grit. Any grit at all. Yeah, I mean, it's a little grimy in there. I think there's one little piece of something we kind of need to grab down in there. Right on that edge. But overall, this is giving me way better confidence in what we're doing. You know, and we can even come in here and look down the valve guide and see, ooh, look at that wear. So that's the back of the valve seat on there, and you can see this valve, there's a little bit of uneven wear on that guide. And a little bit of uneven, but that might just be grime built up. I'll make sure I blow these out too, because this might be, I think a lot of this is just a little bit of corrosion from us working on it. Here's the autofocus probe, still in all the packaging and stuff. But yeah, this guy, essentially, you can have it like pretty dang close and it should autofocus, and pretty far away and it should autofocus. So what that allows us to do is just really get some good shots. So to illustrate this one, you know, we can be far away, and I can even come out here and you can see far away, but if I come up close, it'll still focus in. So what this allows us to do is come in here and really view where the injector comes in. Let's see. See my finger up there? So that's where the injector comes in, and you notice they have a whole pocket milled out right here. So they have this entire pocket milled out. So there's these fins that I've pulled them out, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to use them or not. And we can set it in. In this fin, you can see what actually happens on this back side is air gets shoved in behind this fin. I think the reason this fin is in here is it actually squeezes down a little bit and causes higher velocity to run past the fuel as it comes in, and that pocket there is to help as like a low pressure zone as well, to help atomize the fuel as it comes in. And so I don't think these fins are going to cause that big of an issue to have them in. They're not going to block it too much, and I think it'll actually help with the fuel atomizing as it comes into the chamber. There you can see our valve guide. We're a little close for it. But yeah, so this guy, the autofocus is going to be great. Maybe not so much for this project, but for other projects, it'll work out awesome. Here's the exhaust. But yeah, the seats don't look that good. Okay, before we move on, just the last little thing. We've got the autofocus lens or probe on here plugged into my computer. And with this, we get a higher resolution in our laptop. So we'll see how this goes. In here we can see the valve seat has a little bit of surface rust and corrosion on there. And on this guy, on the exhaust as well, we still have some of that pitting that we are dealing with, if it can autofocus decent. And then with this camera as well, if I turn on the light a little bit, we can see that the my valve guides have a bit of surface rust on there. So I actually probably need to clean my valve guides before we go too much further. Look at that. Look how good that looks. So anyways, this is a really quick thing. Hopefully I can use this to get you guys some pretty good shots. So far I'm pretty impressed with this. I just really wanted some good cameras for like looking in tiny places, and this really, at the moment, this seems like the best option out there. Okay, so here's the heads, and we did clean these up a bit, but there's a bit of pitting on the exhaust side here, and there's a bit of like just kind of build up still on the intakes. So we need to make sure that these seal well. But the valves that I did have, in sandblasting them, I'm pretty sure I ruined them by coming up too high on this. I mean, you can see all the carbon buildup, and some of them I came up a little bit higher. So I didn't really feel like I had valves that I could use. So we went to the old Scoobaroo shop, and directly from them, got all new valves. We got new intakes and new exhaust valves. So now we have an old used surface, and we've got brand new valves, and we basically just need to get this seat, this surface here, to match up perfectly to match up perfectly with the seal in here. So we gotta finally break out the new parts. Like, you know, up to this point we've just been dealing with our old parts. Now we can start breaking out our new parts and really seeing how they work. Here's that one valve. Jaffro Mobile has a pretty dang good video on this that I just saw. I actually am subscribed to him, and he makes some pretty fun videos. Just the way he chats about it, it's kind of fun. But yeah, he has a pretty good video on how to actually lap them. He did all his by hand. I did get a fun tool. We might try, but I definitely need to do first few by hand. Let's get these valves lapped in. We got all our new valves here. I'm gonna pull them out, organize them. You know, we got assembly lube for when we actually put it together. I'm using Permatex grinding compound, and this is actually kind of cool. Basically, it starts at 120 grit, and as you use it, it'll grind down into 220, so like from a coarse to more of a fine one. So that's why there's only, you know, this, because it'll use all those ranges. Got our brand new valve seals, and I also got this because I got a valve lapping tool, and what this does, I don't know if you can see that. See, it just goes back and forth. So rotating with the drill will make that go back and forth. So this just makes it, you know, with your normal tool, instead of having to go like this a bunch, I can use the drill. But the drill also covers up the noise, because you can actually listen to these. But anyways, not to get too deep into it, I'm going to do the first few like this to make sure I'm doing it correctly. And this I'm going to use later. And they say in the ad, they're like, oh, the operation range is 1,000 RPM to 1,250 RPM. So that's where I have this, which I've needed this for a while, but this is an RPM reader, or tachometer. I guess that's the more technical one. And I have this piece of reflective tape here. And so what this allows me to do, so if we go like this, you can see we're like 480. If I full throttle, 1297, so like 1,300 RPM. If I'm on speed 1, 345. So yeah, so this drill, 345 RPM on the 1 and 12 or 1,300 on speed 2. So if I don't know if they mean it has to be at 1,000 to 1,200, but if I do want to do that, then, you know, I just hold it off a little bit from full throttle, and this should work out great. I think the reason they have the max is because there's like rubber in here that's like doing the switching, and if you go faster, it'll overheat the rubber and then cause it to stop working. Because it's such a light job, if I do use this, I'll probably go like a little bit slower than that, but should be pretty good. That's the valves lapped in. Oh my goodness. I am really happy to have that done with. But look at these valves. The seats are looking pretty good. I like how they turned out. If you do it long enough or like well enough, you get a bit of a polished finish on the seats. And you know, it's maybe not as good as if these were like brand new heads, but I think these will work out just fine and seal just fine. So now we need to put these together, actually get all the valves in there, put them in the valve springs, all of that. I'm going to be a little liberal on the oil and on the assembly lube just because I want to make sure nothing's going to start corroding over. It might be a week or two before we get our gasket set. So yeah, let's get them together. It's been a long time coming. I am so happy to have this done, and let's finish it. Let's finish it out. Well, we're gonna have to end this video off here. I think we finally made a lot of progress. We finally have got to the point of putting on new parts. Our heads are usable. They're looking great. Like, here, come here. Like, look at these heads. These heads look so good. I'm really happy with what we have here. We got all the valves in, got the seats in there. They should seal great. Got brand new valve seals down in there. Like overall, this, oh man, this looks so good. This has been a while coming. I mean, there's well over 10 hours of footage that makes up this video. I don't even know how long it's gonna be, but it's gonna be a long one. But I really wanted to get us to a point where we're actually putting the motor together, because we're getting really close. We are still waiting on some parts, like I said. It's mainly just the gasket kit. I guess when I ordered it, I didn't see that it was like back ordered, and I can't really get, you know, a whole kit anywhere else. So we're waiting on those. It might be a little bit, but there's other stuff that we can do in the meantime. So the 2.5 liter Crosstrek is coming. Really happy you guys came on this project. Really means a lot that you guys are here with me, keeping up the motivation. A lot of the stuff I use, I actually have down in the description in case you're kind of looking at, you know, what am I using and how is it working for me. So look down in the description there. I really hope you hit the subscribe button so we can see on the next one. But with that, I just want to say have a great day. And if it's late at night like this, then I hope you sleep well. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Yeah, bye.